CataractCoach.com. Focus on efficiency. Here's how I think. So now we're comparing this to a case done yesterday. I chose one of my cases at random on a particular surgical day, and here it is. And I happen to choose the patient who is just really all over the place. And you'll see this eye is going to wander the entire time. And so now putting some anesthetic, the patient is really this jittery. Patient has gotten some IV sedation. Patient didn't want too much. Remember, the key here is to be very encouraging to the patient. You can see it's a toric lens. I'm just wiping off some of these ink marks. On the cornea instead, there are 3 dots on either side showing that steep meridian. Looks like maybe around 30-ish degrees or 20-ish degrees. So now filling the eye with viscoelastic. There it goes, a nice big fill. This is shown in real time, and I tried to have the same kind of starting right at the para and ending at the same time. The patient is absolutely jittery. The eye's moving all over the place. I'm using here a 1.8 millimeter diamond keratome and kind of slightly widening that to about 2.2. I'm going to do 2.2 millimeter phaco here, making that incision just about where that steep axis is. You can see the dots on the cornea. So here's a mistake I made. So I'm going to do the rexes, and this patient's this jittery. I should probably be holding the eye through the side port because I can't trust this patient to look still. So grabbing it. Efficiency here is that the instrument was given to me immediately, and I'm not using a cystotome. I'm just using the forceps, getting the rexes done. But of course, I told you this is where it's not going to be the prettiest, because as I do it here, this patient decides to look over there. So that's obviously a little stressful. So I probably should have done a better job holding the eye, but still, we're going to be efficient. We're going to get this thing done. Try grab that capsule. I still want to have a nice, pretty rexus. Again, never yell at the patient. Just be encouraging. So now you're doing a beautiful job. Just keep looking at the pretty lights. Now, in a case like this, not a very dense cataract, kind of like the case from yesterday. A similar patient, the eyes look almost the same. It's even almost the same dioptric power, I happen to know. So, hydrodissection here, I'm going to get this nucleus partially out of the bag, just a little bit. And you can see that delineation to help separate the endonucleus from that epinuclear shell. A little pinch of viscoelastic. Again, the patient is all over the place. The patient can't hold still. So, of the cases that I selected, I literally chose this at random. And I'm going to go in now. I'm going to do this kind of flip and chop. So flipped out of the bag and chopped. So the key here is immediately, within seconds of putting the phaco probe in the eye, you got 2 halves. And now there's really no need for any sub-chopping. And this lens has about the same nuclear density as the case from yesterday. So now I can just bring the pieces towards the tip. And again, feeding them into the tip. I'm using a high flow rate, 60 cc's a minute, correspondingly good infusion pressure to have the eye nicely balanced, and just taking these pieces down, and they come out pretty easily. I'm going to keep that chopper in the safe position as the last few pieces come down. Right now is where I tell the technician, hey, open the lens, or tell the circulator, can we have the lens, please? I'm confirming the lens power as I'm doing the phaco. Get these last few pieces out here. The lens is being opened up for the technician right now. It's probably already on the Mayo stand. Get this last little piece out here, and then we'll switch over to the eye probe. I change the settings on my phaco foot pedal. So once those pieces are out, there you go. I give it back. The technician will switch over to the eye probe. I double click my pedal, and I explained this previously, to go from my phaco mode into my cortex removal mode. So remember, I'm only using a few settings here. I'm using phaco chop mode at the beginning. I'm using a cortex removal mode, and then I'll use viscoelastic removal. That's it. 3 settings, not multiple. There's one little nuclear piece. We'll just push that in there with the spatula. And then watch how I do the cortex removal. I like to do more of a circumferential removal. So once we get these free pieces out, trying to go, circumferentially, and I also try to polish up the caps or bag at the same time. I want to grab at least a good clock hour or 2 of the cortex before pulling it centrally. And we'll clean this up pretty nicely. And we're even going to do some capsule polishing perhaps. Let's see, maybe with the IA probe, cleaning up that subincisional cortex. Again, coaxial, standard IA probe, just like the previous case from yesterday. Getting that last piece out. I don't want to go too close to that endothelium, so any smudgy stuff will just get out at the end. And that looks pretty clean. Now, in a case like this, I'm probably going to forego doing too much capsular polishing because the patient is just all over the place. So here's viscoelastic going inside the eye. Again, not a race. I don't care about speed. I don't care about how many minutes I save. I just want to be efficient. I want to be in and out of this eye in as little time as possible. So it's pretty good there. Here comes the lens going in, single piece of acrylic lens. And this is actually using 2 hands as a non-preloaded lens because it's a toric one. So far in our center, none of the toric lenses come preloaded from this company. So we're using this lens that's in the injector. And we'll get that rotated to just before the correct positioning. You see the toric marks on the cornea and the toric marks on the lens. Going behind the lens, remove viscoelastic. Again, high flow, 60 cc's a minute or more. Really wash out all that viscoelastic. Now, normally I do a little more capsule polishing. I just want to be careful here and kind of get out of town. I'll use that probe there to remove as much of that stuff as I can, but I'm not going to put the capsule polishing instruments in only because I don't want to risk any complications with this patient who's all over the place. For whatever reason, she couldn't get a heavier degree of sedation, and we didn't want to do her block. So there you go. There's that rexus. Not the prettiest rexus, but boy, it certainly overlaps 360, and it's a good size. Sealing up the incision. Notice how there's no delay from one instrument to the next. We got it, go, go, go. And so it's just my technician and I have done so many thousand cases together. It's just like a dance, so we don't have to say anything. Now get that lens centered up, good, ensuring its positioning, center it up a little better than that. There you go. And also I can ensure that the axis is spot on. So this is what goes through my mind to get a nice, efficient case done. And I hope you learned a lot from it. Thanks for watching.